Why doesn't MTV play music videos anymore is the battle cry for a few generations whose adolescence occurred as a precursor to Y2K, September 11th, and the boy band resurgences of 1999 and 2012. Rather than jump on the whiny bandwagon and yearn for a similar time of day glow, skinny ties, and songs with drum machines, let's look at what MTV has accomplished and influenced in our culture while completely ignoring the meaning of the M in their station's moniker. It's been 40 years after all. My name is AJ of Geekscape, and this is the top 10 things MTV gave us that have nothing to do with music. Number 10, House of Style. House of Style premiered in May of 1989. It primarily focused on America's growing fascination with fashion, but expanded into topics like eating disorders and the lives of supermodels. I don't care about fashion, and I don't know if anyone I'm acquainted to ever did, but everyone I knew watched House of Style. One reason could be Cindy Crawford, who embodied the corn-fed all-American female from her almost brick house measurements to her playful attitude up to her trademark beauty mark. After 6 years with the show, Crawford walked away, and MTV continued producing House of Style another 5 years with different hosts. While Daisy Fuentes, Rebecca Romaine, and Molly Sims were all suitable replacements, House of Style was all about Cindy Crawford, and sometimes Pat Smear. Number 9, MTV Sports. Launching in 1992 and running until 1997, MTV Sports host Dan Cortez covered the world of radical sports from around the country. Personally, you could argue that there would be no X Games without this show. While the extreme sports market was already in place in certain areas of the country, most likely in Southern California, MTV Sports brought it into the living rooms of families who previously only had football, baseball, and basketball as physical activities. MTV Sports embodied the alternative spirit from active adolescents who couldn't give two fly balls about traditional organized sports. If you need any more convincing, 2 words: freestyle frisbee.
Is that what it is? Yeah, boy!
Number 8, The State. Sketch comedy was not new in 1993, but the State's brand of sketch comedy was. From satire to absurdism, or Nazi war criminals to Nancy Spungen, the show remains funny to this day, unlike contemporary sketch shows like Saturday Night Live and In Living Color. The 11 20-somethings that formed The State were a cohesive group of friends who handled all aspects of the show, including writing, directing, acting, and editing. Pulling inspiration from abstract sketch comedy like Monty Python and SCTV, they created a show that was both extremely of its time as well as timeless all at once. The team behind The State went on to create hit shows like Viva Variety and Reno 911, as well as classic movies like Wet Hot American Summer, Night at the Museum, Role Models, and other comedies so good you'll need to dip your balls in it.
I want to dip my balls in it!
Number 7, Remote Control. MTV's first original program is still among one of their best. Launched in 1987, running for 4 seasons, the show rewarded folks for being a couch potato. The game show was hosted by Ken Ober and hosted in Ken's quote-unquote basement in front of a live studio audience. With help from the likes of Colin Quinn, Adam Sandler, and Dennis Leary, an array of slacker contestants played the Jeopardy-style trivia game about television. This included categories like 6 Feet Under, Boy Were They Stupid, and Celebrity Flesh, which were perfect for the late 80s, early 90s MTV-obsessed demographic. The show arguably set the precedent for many of the game shows you would see on Nickelodeon in the late 80s and early 90s, but with a little more edge, as well as opened the door for other MTV programming like The Idiot Box, Liquid Television, and Singled Out. When it comes to remote control, we here at Geekscape would love to see a revival series. Number 6, Jackass.
Hi, I'm Johnny Knoxville. Welcome to Jackass.
Skateboarding was the thread that brought 2 groups of people together from opposite ends of the country to make a show that not only sped up Darwinian natural selection, but also made huge stars of Johnny Knoxville, Bam Margera, and Wee Man. While the CKY videos proved popular in Westchester, Pennsylvania, where Bam's squad originated, it wasn't until the guys were on national television riding shopping carts into the mainstream that the rest of the world took notice. The show ran for 2 years, had 3 theatrical movies and multiple spin-off shows that turned some skateboarders turned superstars into cultural icons and movie stars. Unfortunately, on June 20th, 2011, Ryan Dunn died in a car accident, and the full Jackass team hasn't done much since. However, later this year, we are expected to see the long-awaited Jackass 4. Number 5, Choose or Lose. The youth are mostly ignored in politics, but MTV understood that even if you weren't old enough to vote, it was never too early to get involved. The Choose or Lose campaign was aimed at getting young people interested and age-appropriate people registered to vote. It can be argued that what endeared President William Jefferson Clinton to an entire generation was his appearances on MTV. Whether he was playing his saxophone, hanging with Pearl Jam, or answering questions about his underwear preferences, he ushered in a whole new era of young people being politically active for the first time in decades. It may be hard to believe in 2021 when the youth are storming the streets to stand up against systemic racism and fighting for equal rights, but in the 1990s, when it was cool to be apathetic, Choose or Lose reminded us that it's even cooler to be a part of the change you want to see. Putting candidates on MTV changed the face of politics in a way that hadn't occurred since JFK debated Nixon on live television. Number 4, MTV Films.
When we at MTV decided to make our first movie, we knew the kind of hero America was yearning for. Someone young, fearless, and resourceful. A survivor. We came up with Ralph.
Give me a kiss, babe.
Perhaps starting off your production company with a feature-length film inspired by short promos about cockroaches isn't the smartest business plan. But MTV Films built an impressive resume of classic 90s and early 2000 blockbusters after Joe's Apartment. Films like Varsity Blues and Election wonderfully captured high school life in 1999. Napoleon Dynamite, Fistfoot Way, and Pootie Tang became beloved cult classics, and Save the Last Dance, along with the Jackass movies, were bona fide blockbusters. The company was never shy about letting small, up-and-coming filmmakers create something unique, be it Justin Lin's Better Luck Tomorrow or Craig Brewer's Hustle and Flow. Over the last few years, their focus on pop star documentaries and reboots of classic franchises has continued to allow their films to be profitable. Number 3, Jersey Shore. T-shirt time, Guidos, cabs are here. There's so many things added to the cultural lexicon that stemmed from Jersey Shore, for better or worse. Originally a spin-off of the I Have a Summer Share episode of True Life, which showed a group of North Jersey cheeseballs clubbing, drinking, fighting, and looking for love in Seaside Heights while showing the lifestyle in an appealing light. MTV saw the potential and began crafting a spin-off that's responsible for ushering in the EDM revival and causing the stock prices of creatine and hair gel to rise. For 6 seasons, people like Pauly D, JWoww, Snooki, and The Situation all became household names. The show was controversial at the time for its portrayal of Italian Americans. Unico National requested MTV cancel the show, calling it a direct, deliberate, and disgraceful attack on Italian Americans, with companies like Dell, Domino's, and American Family Insurance having their ads pulled during the Thursday 10 p.m. time slot. The show led to multiple spin-offs, including most recently the revival of Double Shot at Love, now starring Vinny and Pauly D, Floribama Shore, and Jersey Shore Family Vacation. Number 2, Beavis and Butthead. While Remote Control celebrated being a slacker, Mike Judge's cartoon mocked the idea. The duo spent most of their time working at a fast food restaurant or in front of the TV making fun of the music videos that made MTV famous. This spin-off from Liquid Television broke new ground in animation, programming, and influence. There was a massive cultural debate over the appropriateness of the show after a kid dropped a bowling ball off an overpass after seeing Beavis and Butthead do it. I'm sure a few people played frog baseball as well, and the controversy got so bad that the duo was no longer allowed to say the word fire. If not for this brain-dead duo, it's easy to imagine a world without South Park, Family Guy, Daria, King of the Hill, or even the previously mentioned Jackass. Number 1, The Real World.
This is the true story. True story.
7 strangers picked to live in a loft
And have their lives taped.
To find out what happens
what?
when people stop being polite. Could you get the phone?
And start getting real.
the real world.
In his book, Sex, Drugs, and Cocoa Puffs, Chuck Klosterman wrote an entire diatribe about why the real world was so engrossing. It's very possible that reality TV would not exist if this show hadn't worked. The real world walked so Jersey Shore could run. Every reality program on TV 30 plus years later has the real world to thank. Beyond changing the direction of MTV programming, it changed television at all stations. We wouldn't have Rich Housewives, Honey Boo Boos, or auctioneers turning into overnight celebrities without the success of this franchise. The confessional was coined here, where participants would talk into the camera and narrate their own lives, which proved so popular it became a fixture of competition shows and scripted comedy for years. You didn't need writers, you didn't need a plot, you didn't need actors, and you only needed to pay the crew, editors, and the landlord who owned the building, and you had a hit show that voyeuristic Gen Xers could not stop watching. It was simply a revenue machine, and audiences could watch and think, that could be me. Would we even have YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok without the real world making ordinary people fascinating? The show's a precursor to the entire way we live now, for better or worse.